Hello and welcome back to the Real Estate Regroup Show. I am your host, LJ Walker. This question came from one of my subscribers. They wanted to know how I felt about Eric Adams cutting off the food to all of the immigrants that came under the Biden administration. Many of them were illegal immigrants, many of them were said to be asylum seekers. So he didn't think it was fair, especially since this occurred right after Trump was elected. So although I'm right here in New York City, I have to admit that I'm not up on everything. So I'm only going to share with you what I do know about the situation and how I do feel about the situation. As many of you know, before I even begin, just be clear that my mom is an immigrant to this country. Okay. And most of my friends are as well. And also all of my family on my mother's side is also, I am the very first American on that side of the family. My father, he's already American. He was born here. Okay. So let me just tell you a little bit about things back in the late 60s and 70s when my mother came. When my mother came, the U.S. was actually asking for people to come into the country because they said that there wasn't enough. So she basically moved forward in that direction because she already had friends and family here. Well, more friends than family. She received a letter of invitation from one of my, here's the thing. In the Jamaican community, and in a sense in the Black community too, sometimes your friends actually become family. So this particular friend who I call aunt, and she was like my mother's sister from the church, and that's another thing too. She basically my mother basically let her know that she would be interested in coming. So she got a letter of invitation from her. She had to have my mother's friend, who I call aunt, had to have a bank account. Back then, in the 70s, that's when they allowed women to actually have a bank account, because that's the only way also in which she could sponsor my mom until my mother actually got a job. Okay. My mom also had to have her own money before actually coming into the country. So her situation was very different. Once this was done, my mother got a visitor's visa that lasted for 3 months. And then she did ask for extensions twice. Next thing you know, she met my father, who, as I mentioned before, he's American. They got married. My mother did apply for a green card, and then she got pregnant, had me. But before she actually had me, my father left. So she had to use me, since I was born here, on her green card so that she could stay. And then later on, as years passed, she finally filed for U.S. citizenship. And by the way, in order to be a U.S. citizen, they make you look at American history. And guess who's left out of American history? Or maybe I should say, guess who's included? Only like the president and only like white history, but nothing about the Native Americans, nothing about Black history, or, any other group that has contributed to the greatness of this country is included in order for you to become a citizen, which I found very interesting. Okay. But you know what? That's neither here nor there, right? Because that's the past. That's what they did back then. But under Biden, I have to admit, my own opinion, I feel like it was too much. 220,000 asylum seekers. came to the city. And we spent over $1 billion, and none of that money went to the actual residents of US or the actual residents of New York. And trust and believe, coming out of COVID, you guys got to remember, we were hit with COVID first. So we were on lockdown a lot longer than the rest of the country. We needed to recoup. We lost a lot of businesses. A lot of businesses still have not come back. And some of those businesses had been around for not just 1, 2, 5 years. I'm talking about businesses that were around for like 100 years. They're gone. Like restaurants and things like that, they're gone. They're not here anymore. All that money that could have been to support those businesses to bring them back, which would of course meant bring more jobs into the area, all of that was sent to the asylum people. The other thing you have to realize is that our shelters were already crowded before they came. So there were hotels that were taken over. Well, the government, assigned certain hotels for them to be in. And of course, those were crowded. Then you also had schools. So kids couldn't physically go to school anymore. Kids had to, some kids had to stay at home. There were some schools that were open for the kids to go in and learn. And then those were overcrowded because now you're getting those other kids coming there. But then you have some people that, still had to train their kids at home. That wasn't cool for a lot of people. Even though many people still voted Democrat in New York, it was only like 80% as opposed to like 95, 100. And that was one of the reasons why it was. Now, as far as the food getting cut off, just so you know, they were getting $350 per week for food. Not per month, but per week for food. And it was $1,200 a month living expenses for people who do not pay taxes and have never paid taxes in the United States of America. So let that sink in for just a little bit. Let that sink in for just a little bit. So on top of that, as I mentioned in some other videos, a lot of New Yorkers left. New Yorkers were leaving even before, to be honest with you. But New York was leaving in record numbers, especially the Black community. That's one of the reasons why they said, oh, well, we'll bring more grants so that you guys can own homes, even though the price of homes were quite high. They were doing that to keep primarily the Black community here. Okay, but other races were leaving too. Hispanics were leaving, white people were leaving, Asian people were leaving, like everybody was leaving because many did not think it was fair that we're paying taxes and our taxes, we can't even get any help, like it's going to other people. Even the training, this is another thing that I didn't think was right. And I did mention this to the senator too. It's like we're training many of these people. Like some of the money was going to train them trades, like plumbing, electrical, and all of that. And I'm like, well, why aren't those trades being taught in our schools to American people as opposed to only the migrant workers, when there are so many Americans that are unemployed due to what happened with COVID, when there are so many, there were a lot of drug dealers out there, a lot of people selling drugs just to make ends meet, not necessarily because they wanted to. It's obvious they didn't have the education or the skills to get the jobs. And a lot of times, like, even when some of the stores had reopened, like the dollar store, for example, you know they're not paying that much money to those people. The line for that was around the corner, and that was before the migrant workers came. So I really think it was a disservice and it was disrespectful to us that that happened. So that's why I say I'm not really mad, even though I voted Democrat. I'm not mad at those who voted Republican, not too much, because I understand the Biden administration. It's as though they ignored those of us who were from New York. Okay, so now fast forward, now the mayor, right after Trump's election, and I know it is kind of strange that right after his election he cut everything off, but I listened to an interview and he said that it was only for 1 year, even though it felt like it was way more than a year, because I know that even when it came to the war with Ukraine, they were sending the people from Ukraine here to New York as well. As a matter of fact, I also know, because I definitely heard him say this, that he was offering people $3,000. The government would pay you $3,000 to have them stay in your home. And a lot of people, there are some people that took that up, but there were a lot of people that were afraid of doing that because they didn't want the government to send them just anybody. You understand me? Like, if it was a man or a group of men, people might be intimidated of having those men in the home, especially if they have kids. And that is the thing with a lot of these government programs, is that they don't always tell a person who it is that they're sending to live in your home. You understand? So that's one thing. Now, the other thing that seemed to have been left out is that, people only hear that, oh, the mayor just cut off the food. The mayor actually has also put them on buses and sent them back to Texas. He's also is putting them on planes and sending them back to the country where they come from, supposedly. Because I'm not on those planes. I don't know. I don't know if they're sending the people to the right country, because the other thing is the news makes you think that everybody was Mexican. Not true. Everybody was not Mexican that came to this country. I can tell you that for a fact. Many of them were from different countries in Africa. Guess who's paying for that? New York residents. Now, the person that posed the question towards me and wanted to know how I feel about it, it is possible too that because our mayor has been brought up on several charges, and now that President Trump has been elected, he might say, okay, if I do this, then maybe President Trump will pardon me and have them drop charges. I'm not sure at this particular moment if that was the play or if that was the plan. If it is, I definitely understand. I definitely can see that, but I don't know, because I feel as though there's still a whole lot of information that has been left out. I do agree, though, that it was wrong to bring all of these undocumented asylum seekers. We didn't even know whether or not they had COVID or not. By the way, I did catch COVID for the very first time this year when I got off of the cruise ship in Alaska and I was in Seattle, Washington. I did catch it. Now, as far as Seattle, Washington, I did see, immigrants there, but I wasn't sure if they were asylum seekers. I saw a lot of homeless people there for sure, but I wasn't sure if they were asylum seekers or not. And also, when I went to Arizona, again, I saw immigrants, but I wasn't sure if they were asylum seekers or not. I definitely didn't see them sleeping on the street like I do here in New York. Like in New York, you can literally from the east side to the west side of 116th Street at night, you can definitely see a whole bunch of both Africans, Mexicans, and then, of course, probably other nationalities, other people from different continents just standing outside, mostly of restaurants, but sometimes also of abandoned buildings and regular buildings. You just see them just standing out there. But I think many of them were working for like DoorDash and what have you. I know some businesses were sponsoring them as well, but they kind of overdid it. Like people who I know who live there, they said that a lot of times, like in the afternoon and at night, you can hardly find any space to work. I mean, space to walk. Okay. And that I could literally see that. And that was it. It's absolutely ridiculous. And then they started to come down Lenox Avenue, almost to 125th, but mostly I would say, from let's say 114, 115, 116, 117, 118, let me see, one and to 119th Street on Lenox Avenue is what I saw. And then I was also seeing them in Midtown around the 50s and in the 40s on the east side. There was one guy, he separated himself from the pack and he was like sitting on top of, we have these grates and the train station is underneath them and sometimes heat comes up from there, and he was sitting on that and he was so miserable. He looked like he came from a warm climate and wasn't used to the weather, because at that time it was really cold. I mean, it was extremely, extremely cold, so I don't hate them. I feel bad for them. I feel as though a better plan should have definitely been put in place. And I don't think so many should have been dumped on one city when there's so many different cities in the United States. And also I don't think it was good to let anybody come since we were recovering from the pandemic. I think that the United States should have recovered from the pandemic first and then let the people in after we get ourselves straight. It's just like when you're on the plane, when you get on the plane, they always say put your mask on first before you put your mask on your children. Not to say that they're children, but that's how I feel about the whole situation. And I am honestly, I'm glad that they are sending them somewhere else. I do believe that when I flew, by the way, when I flew from New York to Arizona and then from New York to Seattle, there's a lot of empty land in this country. All of that is not Indian reservation. They could do something and build something and put those people over there, if anything. But like one city, really? I mean, I went to DC. I didn't really see too much of them in DC. People said that they were shipped there as well or were bused over there as well. I really didn't see any in DC at all. Not particularly. DC also has an immigrant population, yes, but they didn't necessarily appear to be asylum seekers. Okay. But yeah, you know, if it was just that he just cut the food and that was it, that would have been kind of rough. But I believe what he did, and I could be wrong, but he cut the food of the people that he was already putting on the bus and sending them back. Because I saw the people get on the bus. So that's a fact. I saw the people get on the bus. You can see the people at Port Authority, 42nd Street. Most definitely. You could definitely see them. And you could definitely see people also at 34th Street, Penn Station. So they're going somewhere. I don't know where. I know Houston was, one of the cities that was mentioned. Texas was one of the states that was mentioned. And then it just said other countries. I'm not on the plane to see, specifically if that is the case, but this is what I was told. And honestly, I'm okay with it. It did sound to me like I'm reading between the lines as far as what he's saying is that he mentioned the ones that desire to work can stay and they will be given regular help. But the others, particularly the ones that committed crimes, they not staying here. They going. And I'm 100% in agreement for that. Now, the ones that are working, because you do have some that did get a job and that are currently working, I believe they are going to stay. Okay. Now, when Donald Trump officially comes into office in January, I'm not sure what he's going to do. Mayor Eric Adams says that he is willing to work with Trump. And I have to admit, I didn't really hear Mayor Adams ever criticize Trump. And even the criticism he gave to Biden was pretty light. And it was respectful. It wasn't heavy-handed. So I really don't know. I don't underestimate Trump. I'm not sure if he is going to get rid of the ones that are here and working. If he's going to get rid of them permanently, we'll have to see. I'm pretty sure, though, that program where people were being paid $3,000 to house them, I'm pretty sure he probably will get rid of that program. But again, it's a we'll see kind of situation. I'm not really good at looking through a crystal ball like that and predicting the future. I'm just here to just tell you this is what's happening. This is what's already happened. And then this is my opinion. Those are my 2 cents and I'm out. So guys, feel free to like, share, and comment below. Let me know what you're thinking. Of course, share this amongst your friends. Remember, each one, reach one, teach one. Bye for now. Until next time, have a good night.